Welcome back to another round of 0 Point Reviews where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of every classic and cult classic film that we cover. This time we're talking 1985's My Science Project.
The most outrageous science fiction comedy of the summer is here.
What do you call this, Wawa?
My Science Project.
Hey, I seen lights like this at Ozzy Osbourne concert. What's he saying?
He's going to kick our...
What are we gonna do?
About 1 to 5 with good behavior.
It's totally out of control. My Science Project.
Think of the fun.
Rated PG. Now playing in a theater near you.
Yep, that's right, everybody. My Science Project, one of my favorites growing up. But it's been a little while since I've actually watched this movie. The last time I watched it is when I got a Blu-ray back in 2020 from Kino Lorber, kind of sitting on over here. Got a few different copies. But Kevin, what's your experience with this movie, or was your first time watching it right now?
Today was my very first time. I always thought this movie was Real Genius. So
Really?
yeah, I was always a little confused.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, so I kept I was looking through the cast today. I'm like, where's Val Kilmer? So yeah, I knew absolutely nothing about this movie other than it was a sci-fi type movie from the 80s. And I mistook it for Real Genius for the last 40 some years.
Yeah, that actually probably happens more than you would think it is, because around this time, a lot of these like science-based TV movies, TV shows, everything was like coming out in like truckloads, because like science was like this big, huge thing. Can we make it any futuristic? How crazy and wild can we make it? And when it comes to like, the teenage sci-fi comedies like this, Real Genius, Weird Science, this is probably the tamest one of the bunch. There's not a whole lot bad in this movie, except maybe a couple of slurs that happen. And maybe something that's not so PG friendly, because this movie is PG rated. And so this is, of the three, this is probably the tamer of the bunch. But in my opinion, it's actually got a bit more energy going on, because if you actually pay attention to the credits, the director and writer of this, Jonathan Betul, he actually was one of the writers for The Last Starfighter. He's actually also worked on Freddy's Nightmares, the TV show. And so he's kind of got a little bit of a career going on, and it was just really good to see him get his own little project and go forward with it. I really enjoy this movie. But Kevin, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of My Science Project.
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, let's go.
The good.
Vinny.
I cannot tell you the last time I saw Fisher Stevens in a movie. Well, you know what? I can.
So good.
Super Mario Brothers was probably the last time I saw Fisher Stevens.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't even realize that was him. So for again, another 30 years, one of my favorite actors, I can't, it's like, okay, I just completely missed that. Then again, I don't really pay attention much during friggin' Super Mario Brothers. It was not the best movie. But I do like Fisher Stevens, and it was such a joy to watch him in this movie today. Again, it is a different ethnicity, just like in Short Circuit, but that's just the way things went back then. So you can't snide him or chide him for that. He did a great job. What was his last name? Not Lucatero. Latello. That's what
Latello, yeah.
Latello. He was fucking funny.
Oh, and I like how he's like Michael Harlan's like super best friend, and he doesn't really work on cars like Michael does, but they have this kind of friendship where like they grew up together, so they got this natural sort of chemistry together, and it really works for the movie. So one's a greaser, one actually gets greasy working on cars, so it's a weird relationship, but when these two are working together, like you feel the chemistry, you actually buy that these two guys are friends. Yes. And I really appreciate that. And even Vinny's got a fun little car that he likes to hang around in, have little Christmas light decorations going on, a bunch of gimmicks going on. It's got kind of a fun, crazy car when you actually see him riding around in his little hot rod.
Yeah, it was cooler than Mike's. Probably didn't have
Oh, I
Mike's
like the
balls.
GTO. Ah,
That had balls. The other car had class.
it looked more like a little pimp mobile, in my opinion. But
That's what I said.
hey, when those cars are rocking, you don't come a knocking. God, yeah, when I first saw this movie years ago, it was like VHS tape. So like that's how most of us grew up in the 80s, was just VHS tapes. I never saw it in theaters. It didn't do all that great at the box office, but this is one of those movies that keeps chugging along, and I just absolutely love the cast about this. Like, everybody just plays their role just right, even all the way down to the new stepmother for poor Michael. She does a good job of being a little annoying, but not being too bad. Just I'm sleeping with your daddy, and now I'm your stepmom. What's going on with my son here?
And Barry Corbin as his dad. My
Yep.
God.
I forgot who that was Barry, honestly, because it's been a little while since I've watched the movie and paid attention to like the cast of it. And like, holy shit, I have seen that man in so many different things, but it's really cool to see him in this, a little bit younger, little kookier. And so I totally enjoyed that.
He'll always be Sheriff Harv to me from Critters. Like,
Exactly.
he's just the baddest motherfucker.
Critters, another one we should probably talk about on this at some point in the future.
Yeah, at least the first two.
Yeah.
Next Easter, kids. But he was fantastic. Like you said, the stepmom that's wanting to sell Mary Kay stuff and totally redecorates their house was hysterical.
Oh my God, I know, right? It hasn't even been like more than like a couple of days.
Yeah, and she's totally redone the house. The car's painted pink, like everything is pink.
Wallpaper, curtains, let's go. Accessorize.
Doilies.
Doily. Oh my God. I'm surprised they didn't put the dog in a dress. That would have been even funnier.
Oh my God. Yes. And then you could tell she was wanting to flirt with Mike. She's making out with the dad.
Boy.
Yeah, she's like cougering up on him and wanting to rub him and shake his hand. And Mike's kind of like, "Oh, no.
Yeah. Ew.
I don't want herpes."
And we're not in the 90s yet where this kind of becomes more of a thing than it is right now.
Here's the story.
American Pie. Who at one time at band camp they had a story.
But I mean, even the lesser actor, not I won't say lesser actors, but the characters that were not in the movie as much, say like Sherman, there were no bad actors in this movie. No bad parts. Everyone was cast perfectly. You can't make the MST joke. It stars no one. It doesn't. It like everyone, whether they had like a shiny career or afterwards, was a great actor at the time and was perfectly cast in this movie. So there were no complaints for me there.
No, not at all. And I think one of the standouts is a bigger name in this than you think. Dennis motherfucking
Koopa.
God, he's so much fun. I really enjoy him in this, and he gets to play a little bit of a 70s kind of, or 60s and 70s sort of flower child who ends up becoming a teacher and science teacher and likes to suck on oxygen out of an oxygen tank.
I've always wanted to do that. I'm not gonna lie. When I lived down in Southern California in Riverside, they had an oxygen bar open up right as I moved out of town. And I was so upset because I wanted to go hit this oxygen bar and then see how long I could hold my breath underwater after that.
Interesting.
Like, I'm going swimming for a half hour, kids. Woo!
Was that your science project, Kevin?
It would have been, yes. It would have been. But I also kind of like to think to myself, maybe that jar of oxygen was mislabeled instead of laughing gas or nitrous oxide.
It would have been funny if it was like helium.
Yeah, something. But that was just funny as shit. And his whole death for fuck you pigs was just hysterical.
with a mustache glued onto his face at the end. Yeah. Well, what I like is basically when he starts to really work with like the machine that they find, and he's being like, "Hey, this is some weird little power source. It's an engine that looks like it transcends space and time." And I'm like, "Whoa, we went super high tech all of a sudden." And it started with Sherman, but it really carried forward with Dr. Roberts here, and it's just kind of funny to see him then suddenly take control of everything floating around him with the special effects and CGI work, which one of the other really good things about this movie is the special effects work is insanely good in this movie. And it's like clearly that's where all the budget went off to. I couldn't figure out exactly the budget on this thing, but man, the special effects are like Ghostbusters level good quality visual special effects. All of them are outstanding, from it's not CGI, but like those visual effects all the way to the stop motion dinosaur at the end. It's smooth, it looks great. My wife watched this with me and she basically said, "Wow, the special effects in this are really good." And I'm like, "Yeah, they are." She's like, "Man, they look like something out of like Ghostbusters." And it's got all the hallmarks without ripping off Ghostbusters. It's got that kind of level of care and love towards the visual effects that really make this movie pop, based on its like 90-minute short runtime for a science fiction comedy with a little romance dash in it. So I think that really works out to its strengths of, hey, if your visual effects suck, you can do whatever you want with that script. It's not going to help much. And we've seen other movies from this period where they kind of suck when you watch the special effects, despite the movie being pretty good. So this is one that just kind of takes that and runs with it. And I really appreciate that in this movie.
You know what? This had much better special effects than Warlock 2.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with that. And I love that Warlock movie. I actually thought you were going to say a different movie, and I'm not bringing it up.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. It's probably something that's going to make my eye twitch.
Yep, I don't want to get a rise out of you with that one.
Towering Inferno? Fuck you.
No, Deep Rising, dumbass. We got an old bit.
Fuck that movie. That movie's stupid as shit.
And I love that fucking movie, so fuck off. You know what? I got something for you, Kevin. Tricked out car like I was just talking about a little while ago.
Class.
Love Vinny.
I loved his enthusiasm with the M16. That was
yeah.
that was pretty fantastic.
I would too.
The dinosaur scene, which the dinosaur scene was not so bad that like 8 years later, had they done something like that in Jurassic Park, you probably would have been like, well, if the rest of the film wouldn't have been so much awesome, that would have been okay. No, like for what it was, like that was a good dinosaur effect. Like I've seen much, much worse far later in life. We talked about Carnosaur earlier. Much worse. God, what was that fucking MST movie? Not Time Chasers.
Reptilicus or
no, but that's one too. The one that had the main actor was a stunt double for Van Damme several times. He was in The Matrix as one of the agents. Future Wars. That's what it was.
Future Wars. Yeah.
It had the puppet dinosaurs that you force perspective to make them look big.
Classic.
Yeah. Anyway, this looked better than that too, and that was a much later film with a bigger budget, I'm sure. Yeah,
right.
Maybe not bigger budget, but it was a later film.
No, yeah. And I think like the script kind of plays into what budget they did have. They clearly saved a lot of whatever budget they did have for a lot of the visual effects and probably Dennis Hopper's salary.
Yes. And
a little bit of a soundtrack pay because they had like 4 decent songs in this movie. So
unlike Weird Science that had 2.
I was gonna say 1, but you are right. There was 2.
That depends upon which version of the movie you're watching. It's either you're getting Van Halen and Oingo Boingo or just Oingo Boingo. You can't complain either way, but
No.
you know. But anyway, this movie had a lot of good to it that brought with the script. I made a note when Sherman turns on the gizmo and opens up the portal for the long period of time that allows everything to come through. Like they had a checklist of shit that they wanted to go through. And it was, I don't even think House 2 was produced yet, but this kind of set that precursor of what House 2 would be like, where each different classroom was a different time or a different space. Excuse me. And it worked out really well. I liked that. There was dinosaurs, mutants, fucking cowboys, soldiers, all sorts of different shit. Like every period piece that you could think of in a movie, they had that when they went to the high school. And it wasn't forced. It worked out well.
Yeah. And House 2 was 87. So that's 2 years later from this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's way
We know
cool.
Sean Cunningham. He likes to steal things from everybody. So and make it his own.
Mm-hmm. And then sue them for it.
Yep, but can't sue this one unless you really want to sue like Touchstone Disney because they're the ones who actually own the rights to this movie. But so for anybody who is not familiar and you are just checking us out a little bit after our little commercial that we played at the beginning where they kind of give you the plot, the gizmo is a little bit of an alien artifact that they find in an abandoned Air Force graveyard where all the planes are like kind of stashed and it's like minimally staffed because the place is like a deserted, graveyard of like airplanes. And they find Michael finds this with his date and he finds this little gimmick because he needs to do something for a science project. He needs to make sure he passes so he can graduate and go off and do his car thing. And unfortunately, he gets that. He brings it back. They start messing around with it, and it opens up the dimensional portals and time rifts to where crazy shit just pursues from there. And they take it to the teacher. They take it to no, they basically take it to the teacher and they unfortunately trip it off when Sherman's like, hey, let's see what this bad boy does. And so the rest of the movie from that point is just complete chaos until they are able to shut it down. And the doctor comes back after being transported away to another time and place. Or as he said, I went through the 60s and it was awesome.
And it was awesome again. And then he fixed the future. So it was awesome too.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. We haven't gotten there yet, apparently, in our life. But
no, yeah, we'll never get there. But we'll see what happens in November.
When I made this movie called Super Mario Brothers, it's gonna be great.
And I'm gonna have Vinny in it. Fisher Stevens, or he's going to be relegated to another Short Circuit sequel. Oh wait, there was 2 of them.
Yes, there was. And I believe I've heard rumblings. Now, I don't know how true this is. I haven't heard anything from Glenn, but I've heard rumblings for a while that they've been wanting to reboot Short Circuit.
Yeah, I can see that they'll probably do that. It'll probably not be very good though. I mean, they're rebooting everything. Last Starfighter has been talked about for years. If they did this movie, if it gets us a decent 4K transfer on this original classic and gets it back out in print or able to be watched by people somewhere, I'm all for it. Go ahead, make your stupid remake. It's probably going to suck though.
It's probably going to suck.
Most of them do.
Something, if you tried to remake something like this, I don't think it would have the charm. Most things that they try to remake from the 80s, they miss that charm from the 80s. Or God forbid, it's something like RoboCop, where the anima of the 80s, the actual social climate, was the main character of the movie, and they miss that completely. So the movie makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
Right.
Like this wasn't so 80s that it was a cheese fest, but there was so much cheese to it that it was very much an 80s flick. Like it feels rooted in the 80s. You wouldn't want to redo it today and have it be relevant. It just wouldn't work.
It's almost like Back to the Future. It's like perfect where it's set at. And then they even go further back with that. They actually go back to like the 50s with that. Then they bring it back forward to the 80s. So you feel like a different sort of time capsule between two different periods, which really works out well for Back to the Future. And this one stays in one place, one time. They just bring other things in and then send them back out. So it all kind of flows together very smoothly. And it gives good context to the story that they're telling between Michael and his eventual girlfriend, played by the wonderful Danielle Von Zernick, Sawyer. Although she goes by Ellie, they keep calling each other their last names for a bit at the beginning of the movie, so it kind of throws you a tick. But it's really fun that they got a good relationship going, especially after Harlan got dumped by his fancy girlfriend who was just reading Cosmopolitan magazine, which that's kind of a throwback. And then he asked Ellie, "You don't read Cosmo, do you?" And she's like, "No, I don't read that rag." Then a little bit later, you see her with her mud mask on, and she's reading Cosmo, and I'm like, "Oh no, you poor boy."
Yeah, like you're gonna get screwed. First, she's gonna have a low self-image of herself. Then she's gonna have a fucking lower self-image of you.
And then she's going to read your horoscopes and try and figure out what grade your moon is in for your sign at that particular time.
Yeah. Cosmo
It's
was
waning right now.
horrible magazine. Like, I can't say that it was the cause of print dying, but print dying was not necessarily a bad thing because Cosmo went out.
Oh, the bubble was bursting on that. There was just so much crap in magazines out there. There's like 3 million different magazines. Didn't have to hit that kind of level of variety.
And it was all dog shit. Like, if you think clickbait sucks now, go back and read old issues of Cosmo. It was all bullshit that ruined so many fucking relationships.
Yeah. You see, I read this article. It said that when men actually clean and do the dishes around the house, they are actually way more lovable. Get the fuck out of here with that. We help, damn it.
No, see,
Not enough, Kevin. God damn it.
This will get me in trouble. One of my favorite quotes to argue against Cosmo: unconditional love. Cosmo always talked about unconditional love for everyone. Unconditional love only works for women and children. Not for men. It's never been for men. Men have to provide something: a roof, a child, finances. Yes, things like that. Otherwise, it's not unconditional. We have conditions. We always have conditions. Fuck you, Cosmo. Fuck you and your conditions.
I got a condition for Cosmo. We are keeping that clip, everybody. We are keeping that goddamn clip. Kevin, you got any favorite moments or scenes you like in this one?
Favorites.
I mean, I love the dinosaur scene personally, but I also love seeing the Pontiac GTO just soaring down the highway at like top speeds, them kicking in the nitro. I love the shit like that. I kind of like the tech, but those are kind of my two favorite scenes. And then, I like the traipsing through the high school for the ultimate climax where they're able to shut the machine down, save the girl. He gets the girl, and everybody is A-okay at the end of the movie.
Including Bob. But I liked this scene here, not so much just for the dinosaur, but like back here where you could see the opening from the back of the high school gym. You could see all the jungle and shit. Like, I just thought that was so neat looking. Yeah. That's where I was kind of like, whoa, they just kicked House 2's ass. Like, that's kind of cool.
Show them how it's done.
A little bit. I was like, I really did like that. I don't want to keep coming back to it, but that probably was my favorite part. But it was also a part where I was kind of like, okay, now is where we're going to start the bad. So,
well, you brought it up. Let's do it.
I'll hit it. Let's hit it. The bad. So everything about this here was fun. until they started shooting the guns. Then it sounded like someone threw cheap ass firecrackers made in Kentucky, not China, Kentucky, in a small plastic trash bin.
A nice little bluegrass for everybody.
Yeah. So like they're sitting here shooting these great rifles, M16s. Mike's got an M16A1. It has a grenade launcher on it.
Love that.
And it's pop, 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 pop. Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Like everything about this movie was great except for the sound foley's for the firearms.
Yeah, I kind of was picking that up this time too. Like, damn it. Now that I actually I know how these things work, it's like, oh my God, we lost points here.
And for as smart as Sherman is, he's sitting there like, put this in the chamber. That's not the chamber! You dumb son of a bitch!
He needed a handler on set who could actually guide him through that.
Definitions, glossary terms, things like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, which again, Hollywood isn't the biggest know-it-alls when it comes to guns all the time. Let's ask fucking what's his name? Baldwin. They get cheap help. Cheap help. But anyway, the bad part of the bad for me is I hadn't seen this before. I expected not to like this today. So I mean, it was a pleasant surprise that I did. There wasn't anything that made me slow down watching this. I didn't have a part where I was kind of like, okay, now we're gonna get boring. None of it got boring. You get to mutants and you're like, they're talking about the apocalypse. You know, I hate that post-apocalyptic bullshit. But fuck, just like last week, we've got the same mutant, Michael Berryman. Totally awesome. You can't complain about that.
No.
Until you don't see Michael Berryman's face.
Yeah.
You only know it's him because of his posture. And I was like, oh, lame. Lame. Like, that was a wasted opportunity for me.
Yeah, I can see that. For me, and this is more on a nitpicky level, but they introduced this sheriff a little bit late in this movie, and he seems to have a bug up his ass about Michael in particular, and a bug about, teacher Dr. Roberts and Vinny. And it's like, where the hell did this come from? Why is he all of a sudden like now an important part of this movie for like the last act when he shows up? So if anything, I would have introduced him a little bit earlier, so there's like a pre-existing relationship of I'm always having to chase your ass around town because you're drag strip racing or whatever, or or his daughter was the one who dumped him and he never liked him. I mean, there could have been something to bring that together, and that's kind of my one complaint, is introducing a character that late in the ball game just to give a little bit of a speed bump of reality to the plot. I mean, I don't hate it. I think it could have been built up better and provided more context to something else in the movie. And that way, he's throughout the whole movie and you actually kind of see what's going on. And ultimately he arrests Dr. Robert in the end still. I wouldn't change like anything about this movie otherwise, other than introducing him a bit earlier and with more context.
Yes, because of course the sheriff or the detective was played by Richard Mauser, who's a fantastic actor.
That's why I wanted him earlier, so they gave him something a little more juicier and it fit more contextually with the movie.
Yeah, goddamn, Mauser is one of America's dads throughout the 80s. So like seeing him is, at least since Mr. Boogedy, he saved us all. I don't know. I didn't particularly care for his character. One, because he had that big ass bug up his butt.
Yeah.
Two, because it was a little rando, like you said. But I think that's because of one of my gripes that I had with the script, and that's that there were rewrites, or that the actors had different ideas for what the character was going to turn into. I think Mauser had a different idea of what this detective would sound like, gave him an accent, although nobody else in the film has an accent in the movie. Maybe Mike's
Yeah.
dad.
A little bit, yeah.
Because Barry has that accent. But otherwise, like they make Vinny call Sherman fat several times in the movie.
Amy noticed that too. That was pretty funny.
He's
She's
not
like,
fat.
that is not fat. Yeah, exactly.
Dude was like a $130, $150. Like he's not fat at all. Like I'm fat compared to him. So I think that there were changes that didn't get changed in the script necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been part of the problem with Mauser's character. Or he was trying to do that acting thing where he gave a little bit more depth to the character than what was on paper, and that was jarring to the script. I don't know.
Hey, when you're a pretty damn good actor and you're always trying to find some underlying motivation for things, and you accidentally give it way more depth than was ever put on the page. That does happen sometimes, and sometimes it's for the best, and sometimes it just makes you wonder, well, what the hell is going on here?
I mean, he was cool. He was smoking a cigar the entire time and beating on these two teenagers. So it's like he's a real cop.
Oh yeah.
He hated everybody, especially the fucking
Checking with
hippie.
Kevin. Yep.
But I love Bob. He was
Oh
just
my
cool.
god. Like there's so many fun moments in this movie. And just literally just trying to come up with the bad for me. And yes, I'm a little biased. I really love this movie. This is part of my what I call the science trilogy with Real Genius, Weird Science, and my science project. I generally, when I watch one of these, I watch the other two like pretty damn close together because I have such a fun time with these movies. It's like that comfort movie. It's not even a guilty pleasure because none of these movies suck.
No.
And they all fit very nicely together as like this loose little science fiction teen comedy, film. Although I will bring up a point my wife made, none of this cast looked like they were teenagers. They were clearly like mid to late 20s trying to play 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, honey, you got a good point on that one. But I look past it, but she is right.
Danielle was 20. She was 20.
She was closer than anybody else.
Yeah, because she's actually not that much older than me. She's only 15 years older than I am. So yeah, I was
enough to be your mother.
Well, when you say it like that, you pervert. Here's the story. I'm sorry. I've told you before, like I've had a crush on her since I was a kid. I got to meet her once when I was like 8, I think, when she was filming La Bamba in San Juan Bautista. And I just thought she was so pretty and nice.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to have
Fascinating woman.
That one was for you.
Thank you.
Well, you want to get into the ugly, Kevin?
Ugly. There they are. Her glasses were ugly. They were really ugly.
Did Revenge of the Nerds with the pocket protector. That was not lost on me because Revenge was 84.
Yes.
Yeah.
Starring Jamie Cromwell. Don't know if anyone ever caught that before. It used before he was, a good actor. It was just Jamie Cromwell, kind of like it used to be Larry Fishburne.
Oh God, I know, right? Then it became Lawrence,
and now just Fish. And after Babe, it just became Crom.
Abercrombie and Fitch.
No, that god from fucking Conan. Crom.
Oh, by Crom.
Oh my God, I made my wife watch that last week. She left.
Dude, I fucking love Conan. That is never a hard request to get me to watch that thing.
I hadn't seen it in so long, and I turned it on just to make my kids go away.
Nice. Like they want to see like James Earl Jones turn into a goddamn snake.
I do. Shit.
Hey, same here.
Anyway, I guess that's what happens when you talk about the ugly. You go to better pictures. Now I can't say Conan was a better picture, although it is. It's a different type of picture.
Oh, way different.
Yeah. So the ugly, you don't like. I'd never seen this before. You don't see this on TV anywhere, and I know it's a touchstone picture. And I know Disney doesn't really care for its touchstone movies that much. Like, you never see Dick Tracy anywhere. But I know that's because they have that pissin' match with Warren Beatty.
Oh God, yeah.
But they never really give that much respect to their touchstone pictures. Like Rocketeer, how long did that take to have a good, decent DVD transfer or Blu-ray for that fucking matter?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have the Blu-ray, but I wouldn't say it was like decent. It's just kind of passable at best. Like when you talk about Touchstone, the first one that comes to my mind is a goddamn Christmas movie starring Dennis Leary. I like this damn movie with Kevin Spacey in it. Yes, I know, but it's called The Ref, and it's had horrible transfers. It's never made it past DVD. That's something that would be worth putting out. A movie like this should be out there. It should be available on a streaming service somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if Disney doesn't want to air it, this should at least be out there for somebody to. It's not even on YouTube in some shitty format. It's not even on archive. Like, it's really hard to find this movie. And they've put out like cheap DVDs through the years, cheap Blu-rays. And then, back in 2020, they put out the Kino Lorber set for like my science project. And, and you can't find it now anywhere. And you look at the prices on eBay for that shit. It's like, you might as well just get the DVD because the Blu-rays really aren't that much better. They're fine. I'd recommend getting one, but to save money and actually just watch the movie, I just go get the DVD. Be honest with everybody. And I think that is very ugly that it's so hard to find this movie, because everybody should at least have a chance to be able to watch it and make up their own damn mind about this movie. Now, this is, oddly enough, it's rated pretty middle of the road on most places. I think the highest I saw it was like a 6.4 or 6.8. But I've seen it as low as like a 5.2 on some sites, and some places put it at a 3. Like they call this like some cheap ass movie. Tell me you didn't see this movie without telling me you didn't see this movie.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah, this movie is not goddamn cheap. So when it comes to the ugly, I think it's very sad and ugly that you can't even fucking watch this movie anywhere. And we're still going to talk about it because I was able to get a copy together for Kevin. I had to do a little ripping and uploading, and he had to be able to view and download the damn thing. But at least he's got a digital copy now he can watch.
It's true. And I'm very grateful. Because again, I didn't expect to like this today. I'm fighting a huge depression fit. Sorry to complain to people at home. But it's like when you suffer clinical depression, the things that you like to do have no joy in them. Like if you're a foodie, food tastes like ash. It's empty. Movies they're a chore to get through. All I could think of was, God, I had to write notes today. I could be doing something different, like staring at the ceiling. I enjoyed this movie so fucking much. It was such a breath of fresh air. Lifted that depression right the fuck off my chest. It made me smile because it was so fun. There was nothing so like hyper serious in this movie that it was stressing me out. Nothing irritated me. It was just a fun, cute movie. I called my wife, I'm like, baby, I actually liked this shit. It was cute.
She'd probably like the damn movie.
Yeah, I told her that. I'm like, this is actually something you would probably enjoy. I'm like, this was a fun watch.
Yeah, because I got my wife to watch it, and she's like, she was down for watching it. It was a nice little break yesterday in the afternoon. have a couple of drinks. When the movie's over with, she's like, "That was a lot of fun. I had never seen that before." And I'm like,
Yeah.
jackpot.
Yeah, like she enjoyed Weird Science last week. Like it got her laughing pretty hard a few times, you know.
Oh yeah, I think if
Shit.
I was home, Amy and I would have watched like all of the movies this month so far. It would have been pretty fun. And special note for next week, we're actually going to be doing one of my wife's favorite movies, and she will be joining us for Napoleon Dynamite. So it's kind of our back to school special episode.
Dynamite.
So making it work. But as far as ugly, anything else, Kevin, come to your mind? Or
Oh gosh, you know, the slurs, but
yeah, it's a product of its time. Like
yeah,
rhymes with maggots and starts with F came out a couple of times. And like the Viet Cong being used, I mean, it wasn't that bad. They didn't really call them like the slur words for Vietnamese, but
wasn't that me that said that?
yeah, that was you that said that before we started recording. Please don't repeat that word. We are going to be on YouTube, and I don't want to edit any more than I need
to. I only said it in French. Shut up.
Merci beaucoup.
I'm gonna end up going to watch a fucking Kubrick film after this. I just know it.
There you go. Apocalypse Now.
No, man, fucking Full Metal Jacket. That's my jam.
There you go.
But no, the ugly to this is just nothing. I couldn't find any ugly out of this other than the lower ratings like you were talking about. I think IMDb gave it a 5.9. I disagree. I greatly disagree.
And Rotten Tomatoes only has like 9 reviews, and it's like 10 or 11%. I'm about to fix that shit because I'll put up a review on Rotten Tomatoes and give it a bump.
This is a good 7.3. Like
yeah.
for its time, you're not going to get much better. You didn't need TNA to be entertained. I mean, would that have given it an 8.3, 8.5? Sure, but you don't need it. It's still fun.
No, you want to throw up that final judgment slide since we're doing that now?
Oh, are we doing that now? We're doing that now.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking ratings, and I'd easily give this. I'd rate this a little bit higher. I would go an 8 on this. I wouldn't go any higher though, because there's a few things that technically wise, it's visually beautiful, but there's enough going on with this movie. I could start to nitpick and pull things out, and I feel like this could have actually been a few minutes longer. I felt it was a pretty quick runtime, so it was very well edited and produced, but I did enjoy the movie for a lot of fun memories for me, and just it's such a fun, endearing movie without being too crass. And while I like those kind of movies too, this one didn't need to be that, and it basically found its own lane, its own world to live in, and it rode that through to the very end with some fun characters, a decent story, and it never got too complex. It actually was pretty smart about what it was trying to do, and it never went beyond its own means. So I enjoy it on that factor. I'm giving this an 8 and a high recommend.
Excellent. I again, this is one of those movies where I'm going to thank you for making me watch it, just because it was fun. It made my day better than what it was, and
I call it a comfort movie for a reason.
Yeah, like it kept that day smiling, so I can't complain much. I mean, my kids came home eventually, but whatever.
Yeah. The hellspawn have arisen.
Fuck, they're here. No, but I dug this. This needs to be a much broader available movie. I don't want to say it needs to be taught in classes, but it should be shared around a bit. Give it the same respect that you guys gave Adventures in Babysitting. Give it
that's a good one too.
A little bit of respect.
Yeah, and it's worth for everybody just giving it a check out. Just because it's a lesser known one does not mean it's any lesser of a movie. It's a fun movie, irregardless.
Yeah. And again, it's a cast that you're gonna love.
Yeah, like just fucking Dennis Hopper right here. Like, look how zany that nut job is. Like, you were telling me a story about he had just come out of like what was it?
Rehab.
Rehab, and he does this movie. It's like, man, I I don't know, that's pretty funny. I didn't actually know about that.
And he's playing this wild, crazy hippie.
Hippy dippy. Oh, they actually, from what I was reading, there was something about how he actually was wearing like one of his outfits from Easy
Easy
Rider.
Rider. Yep. When he comes out of the high school at the end, apparently that was one of his old costumes from Easy Rider.
See, I didn't know that, and I haven't seen Easy Rider since like freaking college, so I didn't remember that. And when I saw that in the notes, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that.
I've never seen Easy Rider. It's never been one of those movies where I was kind of like, hey, let's go check that out.
I only kind of remember it, so I can't even tell you like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie. It's like, no, I've seen it. It's been so long. I feel so old now.
One of my best friends is a biker, but that's about as far as my like of that culture goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't care otherwise. I don't dislike them. Like I said, my good buddy Danny's in a biker club. My uncle was in a club for a good long time, till he retired out, as it were. But it's not my scene.
No, I get you.
So Ghost or fucking the other guys, Peter Fonda's cameo in Ghost Rider wasn't that impressive to me, and anything that I see Dennis Hopper in is not impressive to me because of Easy Rider. It's impressive to me just because I like Dennis Hopper.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Dennis Hopper. I'll even freaking watch him in the Super Mario Brothers movie. I don't care. He's great.
Sure. I think one of my first like really good experiences with him was Speed. And for as dumb as that movie is, my God, you can't deny how fucking interesting and scary he was. So.
Oh yeah, and a tremendous actor. So I mean, yes, he would sometimes take some kooky roles like this, and sometimes he'd pick on the ones that had some real meat on the bone, and he could really jump into the role. So I very much enjoyed his run in general, and I pretty pleased he was in a goofy movie like this back in the 80s.
Yeah, he was a real breath of fresh air to see today. Bob.
All right, Kevin, you got any other final thoughts before we head on out tonight?
No, that was it. This was a good one, man. And people at home, check it out. Now, I know, like you said, IMDb says that you could find this on Amazon. You cannot. So if you know somebody that has this, borrow it, pirate it, whatever. This is fun. Or text, tweet, whatever, right into Disney. Tell them fucking put this shit out on disc or at least streaming.
Yeah, get off your asses, bitches, and let other companies that want to put out a copy of this do it. Like, I could see this going with somebody like a Vinegar Syndrome. They do a nice line of like classic like 80s movies, like 80s 90s movies, like Sidekicks, things of that sort of nature, like that, or like fucking like let Arrow UK fucking get a hold of this and just let them have at it. Or, get back in good graces with Kino Lorber and let them do a 4K and a proper transfer and get some extras done. That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, Kino Lorber's great.
Yeah, I love their sales. I get like a few things here and there. I just got some film noir sets, actually. I have a nice little collection of that going on. Just haven't put them back on the shelf yet.
Nice.
I love sales and I love shopping there. It's a great way to blow money that I don't need to blow.
But if you won't blow it, who will? Anyway.
Fuck you, man.
Anytime.
All right, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button down below. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for us. If you got any comments about this movie, got any questions, got any favorite moments, or you're just kind of curious about anything else that we've talked about on this, hey, put it down below. We do check out the comments, even though a lot of people recommend don't read the comments. we at least give them a little look over. And also hit that subscribe button and the little bell notification so you can stay tuned to all of our video content. And thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.